Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everyone watching online for coming to see the board this morning. So March was another extremely busy month for the under-resourced police service, but before I highlight some of the exceptional work in the accountability report and comment on the release of yesterday's HMICFRS report, I want to mention two significant milestones which have taken place since our last meeting. We've already spoken about the first with the input from Brendan and my response, the launch of the 2025 to 2030 Northern Ireland Policing Plan. This will be key for setting out strategic direction for the next 5 years, and I really welcome it and the timing of it. The second important milestone, which you've also referenced, Chair, occurred last Friday when we took ownership of the future site of a new police college at the former Kinniger Logistics Base in Hollywood. The additional capacity offered by this site will be a key enabler, allowing us to invest in our current and future workforce and rebuild PS&I officer numbers for both staff and police officers. With this site in place, we'll now progress our business case for the future police college itself and undertake further site rationalisation in Belfast. I'm really grateful for the board's support in progressing this commitment to policing in Northern Ireland. This purchase is a critical pillar in resetting this organisation and future-proofing the PS&I for the generations to come. It will provide us with a world-class policing college, a crime academy and wider support facilities befitting this organisation. As regards His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Services inspection report published yesterday, this report will be a challenging read to some. It provides the outworkings of what I have repeatedly been saying since I arrived in October 2023. It reinforces my resourcing concerns and the need to urgently recover officer and staff numbers. The HMICFRS inspector has confirmed what I, along with numerous other external and oversight bodies, have been warning about for some time. Years of underfunding have savagely affected our ability to deliver essential policing services. Neighbourhood policing, offender management, crime prevention and safeguarding efforts are at breaking point. The saving grace, and this is repeated throughout the report, is our people. It's the sense of duty and public service of our officers and staff. In his observations about the report, the inspector states that in 2023 he expressed concern, and I quote his words about the decreasing headcount of police officers that would lead to reduced visibility, problem-solving activity, engagement and reassurance for communities. He continued, the service budget for 2024-25 has not improved the situation. His report identified many of the consequences of the budget shortfall and the continued challenges that face, as he describes, the Chief Constable of PS&I and his team. The report published yesterday highlights delays in risk assessments, overdue visits to registered sex offenders and inadequate psychological support for officers handling high-risk investigations. I accept the findings, but want to provide you with an absolute reassurance of my commitment, of our commitment to address the concerns raised. Much of the work has already been done. We are in a much improved situation already from the time that the report was written of those visits. As much as I welcome the report, most of what the inspector has highlighted I was already aware of. That's why I restarted officer recruitment regardless of our financial cliff and pushback in April last year to stop any further decline in our numbers. In April 2024, I commissioned a review of our crime department to build on the 2023 service management statement and assess properly our demand, capacity and future challenges. This assessment and a collaborative team PS&I approach to offender management will ensure we accurately surge our resources to address the issues that have been identified. However, let me be clear yet again. Having failed to secure the prioritisation of the PS9 recovery in the programme for government, that without urgent investment, our ability to protect the public will continue to erode. Now more than ever, we need decisive action and investment. Our ability to respond to this report and to implement the policing plan relies not just on our officers and staff, but far more at this moment in time on the support of this board, government, partners and communities to secure the necessary funding and resources that we require. When I arrived as Chief Constable, seeing the position the organisation had been allowed to deteriorate to as regard its numbers, I commissioned an independent group to assess what the police officer numbers should be. Had policing kept pace with the uplifts in policing in England and Wales, we would expect the PS9 to have between 8,005 and 8,500 police officers. We barely have 6,300. A simple Google search asking the question, what is the first responsibility of government, will elicit the answer. The first duty of government is to keep citizens safe and the country secure. It's time that principle was applied here as it is everywhere else. I of course completely understand the wickedly challenging issues of financing that ministers face in Northern Ireland. They are faced elsewhere in the United Kingdom as well. But since policing was devolved in 2010, the PS9 budget has reduced by 6% to 836 million by 2023. Taking into account inflationary pressures, it's remarkable you have any police service at all. In that same period, 2010 to 2023, the health budget has gone from 3.4 billion to 6.2 billion, an increase of 78%. The education budget has gone from 2.7 billion to 3.4 billion, an increase of 26%. We've gone down 6%. Even a proportionally very small uplift over those years to policing, not anywhere near the funding uplifts provided to education or health, would have allowed communities in Northern Ireland to be much better served by its police service. The PS9 share of the overall public spend has gone from 3.8% in 2010 to 2.4% now, 2.4% in 2023. As we sit here today, the health budget is over 8 billion. I will remind this board of the amount of work that we do in the health space. Ambulance calls around 1,000 a month, and of course there's some 40,000 calls for concern, which are mainly mental health issues. We're not funded for that, we're not trained for that. It's perhaps worthy of hypothesising what grading an independent body such as the HMICFRS would give regarding the funding provided to the PS9 in the period I've described. I suggest a grade of requires improvement, which we receive for the management of offenders, would be far too high on the evidence of what that funding has been, and the likely grade would be the lowest grade the HMICFRS can actually give, that of inadequate. I am delighted by the recent support of the Justice Minister. We certainly now have a very shared endeavour. I was delighted that throughout the report, the Inspector of Constabulary quoted about the positive efforts of our staff. He said, throughout our visits and inspections, I continue to be impressed by the professionalism and dedication of officers and staff serving in the PS9. Their commitment to keeping people safe, preventing crime and providing victims with an effective service, often in the most difficult circumstances, is unwavering. I welcome every word of what Mr. Freeman said, but others with the power to change things cannot continue to take our workforce for granted. In concluding my remarks about the report, I want to make clear that I accept the report, and we as a team will address each issue. The officers and staff who work managing offenders and suspects are continuing to do an absolutely remarkable job, for which I cannot thank them enough. This is not a reflection on them, it's a reflection on the position this organisation finds itself in. I'd also like to thank Lee Freeman and his team for the thoroughness of their inspection and their collaborative approach. Despite the immense pressure of our resources, my accountability report again highlights some incredible results from PS&I officers and staff that they continue to deliver. Building on the cross-border crime conference we hosted in Belfast on the 10th and 11th of March, our detectives have carried out multiple high-value drug seizures in the past month. An estimated £6.5 million worth of suspected cannabis, cocaine and ketamine were recovered in Mollusk. Just this past week, officers seized a further £425,000 of cannabis from a lorry in Larne and £68,000 of cannabis from an address in Belfast. Over £170,000 in cash was recovered during that operation. My report also provides details on recent convictions secured for serious child sex offences, domestic assaults and historic abuse cases, outcomes that ensure perpetrators are held to account. Bringing justice to victims is at the heart of our work. A recent conviction for human trafficking and controlling prostitution in Belfast demonstrates that we remain resolute in protecting the most vulnerable in our society. Again, I was delighted that Lee Freeman repeatedly outlined during media interviews yesterday that PS9 investigations are amongst the best in the UK. The past few weeks have again demonstrated the exceptional dedication, professionalism and bravery of officers in responding to serious incidents. In Derry, Londonderry, our officers working with partners from fire, ambulance and foil search and rescue navigated mudflats and entered the river to rescue someone who jumped in from the bridge. In Portadown, 2 off-duty officers risked their own safety by climbing over the railings to prevent a person in mental health crisis from jumping from the Charlestown road bridge. Every day I hear stories like this. As with any large organisation, there remain a small number of officers and staff who do not live up to the high ethical standards that we and the public expect. I welcomed, and you referenced it, Chair, this month's Virginia report to the Office of the Police Ombudsman for Northern Ireland's investigation of abuse of power about concerns and complaints. We've accepted the small number of recommendations for the police service, and these are already either delivered or in the process of being delivered. I want to restate here that any abuse of position by police officers or staff is totally unacceptable and will not be tolerated. There's also been media commentary this month about sectarianism experienced by a former officer. I've been told by numerous Catholic nationalist officers and staff that this officer's reported experience is most certainly not their experience. And I know his colleagues are devastated by and deny the claims, but it is important that I'm very clear on police behaviour. Any sectarian behaviour, any bigotry in any form is completely unacceptable and we will not tolerate it. Everyone can have the confidence to come forward and report bad behaviour. Where we do receive information or complaints around wrongdoing, they will be robustly investigated and anyone who behaves inappropriately will face the consequences. We do not want anyone who displays sectarian behaviour in this organisation. You'll also see recent coverage of deplorable threats, intimidation and abuse directed at many of our elected representatives. I want to assure this board that this is an issue we take extremely seriously. As the Assembly Speaker said in the Chamber on Monday, there is good and proactive engagement with Assembly and parliamentary officials and the Electoral Commission about elected representative safety. We're committed to thoroughly investigating our reports of criminal behaviour. We hold regular dedicated crime prevention events within the Assembly building, the next one being only next week. I was delighted to attend 2 incredible events at Newforge this past month. On the 19th of March, His Majesty King Charles unveiled a plaque commemorating a visit before visiting and addressing officers and staff at our 6th Team PS&I event. The King also presented the inaugural Team PS&I award to the Peer Support team in recognition of the valuable work they do to support our officers and staff. This was a real honour for all those involved, and I know the King's clearly heartfelt words of thanks and acknowledgement to the professionalism and dedication of our officers and staff were appreciated across the whole organisation. I particularly liked his remark about the thin green line. Then on Sunday the 30th of March I was a guest, as I mentioned, at the large Eid celebration at Newforge, organised by Belfast Multicultural Association. This was an incredibly important day for Belfast Muslim community, a community which has been feeling under attack since the terrible events of last summer, and it was an honour to be invited as their guest. Finally, as you mentioned, Chair, I'm delighted to welcome Anthony McAnally as Assistant Chief Constable to the Service Executive Team and to his first Policing Board meeting. I wish Anthony every success as he takes over the Justice Department role from Ryan Henderson, who has taken over the local policing portfolio. And now, Chair, I'm very happy to take questions.